Hello, welcome. My name is Frank Hawkins. I'm the Director of Advocacy and Community Engagement for AIDS Delaware. And I want to thank you for taking time to learn about HIV. What do you already know about HIV? That's the first thing. What do you already know about HIV? And the reason that I ask that is because June of 1981 is when the Center for Disease Control first diagnosed the first HIV/AIDS case. And from that point till now, there have been a lot of information distributed and presented about HIV. However, we still see people getting infected with HIV. And so the question is, with all of the information that people have about HIV, why do we still see people getting infected with HIV? That becomes the question. So my goal today is to get you to match what you know with what you do. And we bring it together so that now, as we bring this together, information and behavior, we can start making some changes and adjustments to the behaviors that people engage in. So, first thing, what is HIV? The three letters HIV stand for human immunodeficiency virus. So I know it's a lot, that's a lot. So let's break that down, small. Human, that's us, we are human, right? And HIV is transmitted from one infected human being to another. And what does our immune system do? Our immune system is that part of our body that fights off germs, bacteria, etc. So that now, when we have a healthy fighting system, we're unable to succumb to some different illnesses that we might ordinarily succumb to. However, in someone's body who has HIV, right, ordinary germs and bacteria, they may not be able to fight off. And therefore, their immune system has become compromised or it's weakened. Something has to happen or some behaviors have to be engaged in for HIV to be transmitted, right? So now, what does that mean? So now a person has HIV, right? Do they know immediately that they have HIV? What we understand and come to learn is that they do not. And the reason for that is because there's a stage called asymptomatic. And what the asymptomatic stage is that a person is not presenting signs or symptoms. And you can be in that stage literally for up to 10 years. But what's dangerous about that is while a person is not presenting any signs or symptoms, they're still capable of transmitting the virus. Now, I like to stop right here for a little bit and just talk about this. Why? Because as human beings and as people, we meet people based on what we see in some cases. We see someone that we are attracted to, we like, and it's like the fireworks start going up, whatever happens, and then we say whatever we say to the person. But in most cases, we don't ask, excuse me, how you doing? My name is Frank. Do you have HIV? We don't do that. Why? Because we know that, the situation might turn disastrous, one, but it's uncomfortable, right? And so because people don't know or walking around disclosing their status, the asymptomatic stage is a stage that I focus a lot on because it really is about understanding that you can't look and tell. I'm gonna say that again. You can't look and tell if someone has HIV. So now that we've hammered that home, let's talk about the next stage, symptomatic. So now a person becomes symptomatic when they start showing signs. Like what, Frank? So sometimes people will have fever, they will have nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, they may develop pneumonia. So what does AIDS stand for? So AIDS stands for Acquired Immunodeficiency Syndrome. What does that mean? Again, what did you acquire? You acquired HIV, which caused your immune system to become deficient or weakened, compromised, and it's a syndrome. And what is a syndrome? It simply means that a group of things have taken place that are now causing you to have this diagnosis. And also, what should be noted is that AIDS is a medical condition that can only be diagnosed by a medical professional, such as a doctor or nurse practitioner. All right? So that's what HIV is, that's what AIDS is. What do you have to have first, right? You have to have HIV in order for it to progress to AIDS, okay? Remember that. You have to have HIV for it to progress to the condition of having AIDS. So now that we understand the classification and the definition of HIV and AIDS, let's move into transmission, okay? So what are the body fluids? Who can tell me? What are the body fluids that transmit HIV? So those are the 5 body fluids, right? Blood, semen, pre-cum as well, vaginal fluids, breast milk, and rectal fluids are the 5 fluids that have been documented to transmit HIV. So moving into prevention, prevention is one of the topics that I really enjoy talking about primarily, the most, because a great prevention message can literally save someone's life. And so that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna provide some prevention messages in the hopes that someone, right, hears something that can potentially benefit them from coming in contact or being exposed to HIV, right? So when we talk about prevention, of course, we know that, like abstinence is the #1 way to prevent yourself from becoming infected with HIV. And when I talk about abstinence, I'm talking about it from the perspective of not just sex, but from drugs and alcohol as well. And the reason that we include drugs and alcohol is because drugs and alcohol have a way of interfering with the decision-making process. So what's right becomes wrong, and what's wrong becomes right. And so we really want to talk about it. But the other thing that I admire about a person who makes the decision to be abstinent is that they have made a choice to maintain their dignity. They have made a choice to show themselves to be committed to something. They have made a choice to really show that they're going to do something contrary to what is happening in their peer group, for example, right? And so it really is about, me showing myself to be loyal to the morals and values that have been instilled in me by parents, community, and others. And I'm going to stick to those morals and values and not violate them for anyone or anything. To me, that shows character. right? And that's why, we talk about abstinence, because it really is a choice. It's a viable choice that we don't hear much about today. And it is one of the things that at AIDS Delaware we talk about, because we want people to understand that it is still a viable option to maintain yourself as abstinent, right? But of course, if not, condoms are always the next best thing, and condoms come in all shapes, sizes, colors, flavors. I like to say that condoms are like sneakers, right? Because a lot of people love sneakers these days. LeBron, Kyrie Irving's, retro, Converse, whatever, right? So when you go purchase a pair of sneakers, you look for the kind that you're looking for, the color, the size, etc. Condoms are the same way. You just need to find the one that is most comfortable for you, bottom line, and use them correctly and consistently. Always check the expiration date to make sure that they're not expired. And you want to always pinch the pack of a condom to make sure that it has not been punctured and that it's not dry rotted or anything of that nature, right? And also, we want to talk, when talking about prevention, we want to talk about sharing needles. Now, I'm not going to get all into the whole drug aspect of it, right? I'm just going to give it to you up front, personal. When I talk about sharing needles, I really talk about the issue of tattooing. And the reason that we talk about tattooing a lot in schools is because we understand that tattoos are very popular amongst teenagers. So what is a tattoo party? A tattoo party is an event that typically is held in someone's home, and an artist comes into the home and administers the tattoo. Now, we know for sure, for a fact, that people who are HIV positive do receive tattoos. And it is perfectly okay for someone who is HIV positive to receive a tattoo. Now, if a person goes to a tattoo party that's in someone's home, that is not a regulated site. We've heard that the needles are not changed and the ink is being shared. So what's dangerous about that is if the needle and the ink are being used, there's no telling if someone in the tattoo party could possibly be infected with HIV. And as that needle and ink are continuing to be used by the artist on others, multiple people, the possibility exists that HIV could be spread through that event. And so that's why our message is, we're not saying do not get a tattoo. Let's just be clear. We're not saying that you should not get a tattoo. What we're saying at AIDS Delaware is that if you're gonna get a tattoo, make sure that you get one from a regulated tattoo shop. And that you can walk into this shop and now be able to see the certificate of inspection by our public health department. So there are 3 ways people get infected sexually. What are they? Oral, mouth, anal, butt, vaginal, the vagina. Now, of those 3, which one would you say possesses the highest risk for HIV transmission? Is it oral, anal, or vaginal? Which one would you say? Correct answer is anal. All right, so let's talk about some myths. And the reason that we always focus on this is because people will listen to other people and believe things and spread them. That's the thing, people will spread them. So here's a myth. If I touch someone who is HIV positive, I will get HIV. Wrong. You will not become infected if you touch someone who is HIV positive. On the contrary, someone who is HIV positive, right, is more concerned with people who are negative because of them having a compromised immune system. They are more vulnerable to illnesses than a person who is not infected. Another myth: sweat, tears, urine are body fluids that can transmit HIV. Wrong. Sweat, urine, tears, and saliva do not have the ability to infect someone with HIV. Another myth: using the same eating utensils, plates, forks, knives from someone who is HIV positive can cause transmission. Wrong. You cannot become infected with HIV simply using a plate, fork, or knife of someone who is HIV positive. Now, do I expect you to leave here and become, I'm gonna just love up on people who are HIV positive? No, I don't. If you have a relative who is HIV positive and you are not sure of how to interact because you're just not sure, by all means, feel free to reach out to me at AIDS Delaware. I would love to sit down and give you a one-on-one conversation and some information, literature on HIV for you to read. All right? Now, the last thing that we're going to cover is HIV testing and why is it so important, right? HIV testing, if you don't get tested, how do you know that you do not have HIV if you engaged in some unsafe behavior at some point in your life? At AIDS Delaware, ladies and gentlemen, we are some of the most skilled and trained HIV testers in the state of Delaware. So how old can you be to get a test from a site like AIDS Delaware? At our organization, you can receive free and confidential HIV testing. You can be the age of 13 and come into our organization to get a test without parental consent. And what does that mean? That simply means that when you come in for an HIV test, that we are obligated and liable to keep your information confidential. HIV is much more manageable. Medications are working. The CDC has determined, right, recently, listen to me, the CDC has determined that people who are HIV positive, who have had a undetectable viral load. What does that mean? That means that the percentage of HIV in your blood is so small that they can't detect it. Are you cured? No. But they have determined that someone who is undetectable for an extended length of time is unable to transmit HIV. So I wanted to leave you with that to help you understand where we have come, where we are going, and the importance still of learning more and more about HIV. Listen, I appreciate it. Use the information. Each one, teach one. That's what we about at AIDS Delaware. So thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.